Hello, everybody. Thank you and for joining us for TokiTV. We have Alejandro here from Miami. Hey, Alejandro. Howard and Susan. We have Deb Cruz here. We have other people joining us very soon, but hope you enjoyed that quick intro video. It is a 6-minute video, and I could watch that over and over and over, but I thought for today's purposes, we've got a lot to talk about today. So we are... we'll do that in a little bit. But I want to start us off in prayer. And Susan has graciously offered to play the flute for us. So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. We're all just going to say our own prayer in our minds and in our hearts while Susan plays for us. Thank you, Susan. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. I needed that. I needed to get grounded in where I am. I think we get very busy and we, putting on a production and figuring out videos and getting into the busyness of it all. But that really does center us onto why we're here. Thank you for joining again. If you're just joining us, TokiTV. Today is April the 10th as we gather for Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut each week in prayer, in faith, and in education. Thank you for centering us this morning, evening, afternoon, depending where you are. Thank you very much. Feel free to type in the chat where you are watching from. We appreciate you joining. I love seeing where we are in Germany. Ula, I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but thank you for joining us every week. I love that you're here with us and commenting. And gosh, we have a lot going on today. Last week we talked about a little bit about the Snake River dams and told you all a little bit about the totem pole journey that is coming up here in May, and had the opportunity to talk with Jewel James last night. If anyone's had the opportunity to talk with Jewel, fascinating gentleman, but he's going to do a little bit more in detail as to what this totem pole journey is about. So I'm going to hand it over to our recording from last night. Okay, hold on one second.
Thank you for being with us. Each week we gather for TokiTV. The efforts that was instilled into all of our hearts by our beloved late Chief Sk'ali'Chehl, and he gave her an Indian name and guided us how to bring Toki'Tai back, and you got the Snake River Journey coming up here in May. Jewel, tell us about what's going to take place on the journey.
Well, you're bringing up the concerns that we still have, the ongoing concerns about the whale, and bringing her home, our relative. South resident pod, her relatives are pretty much starving from lack of Chinook. Chinook is one of their primary food sources. And the Columbia River, the Snake River, were at that one time producing massive amounts of Chinook that would help feed the killer whales. Because of the dams, those populations have been depleted, plus over harvesting. They used to have a Chinook they called the Columbia River hog, and those are 150-pound Chinook, 5 foot, and they're huge. When we think about the success that the Lower Alwa tribe had when they decided to take out the dam on the Lower Alwa River, everybody is kind of wondering whether or not, or even doubting whether or not they could accomplish it. But they did. And that dam's been removed, and the salmon are starting to return. And so that's a great story that we have to always praise them, because they blazed the path for us to follow. And the Columbia River, there's a lot of tribes along the Columbia River, and it goes on up into the Snake River, and there's a lot of tribes up there. And they have all developed culture and tradition tied to harvesting the salmon out of the rivers. We all grew up hearing about the Great Sk'ali'Chehl Falls and the spiritual and emotional damages that were caused to the grandfathers and grandmothers of the prior generation when they bore witness to it being wiped out by the development of a dam. Those dams have slowed down the river. It's disrupted the flows. It's disrupted the ability of the returning Chinook to get to their, and other species, to get to the spawning habitat. And even if they, they've talked about developing fish ladders and the fish chutes, and they would work it so that the salmon are pretty much shoved up and through into the upper waters. But that doesn't solve the problem of the fingerlings. They're going to come down and they're going to hit those generators and get ground up. So it's pretty much a lost cause without some major changes. We know some of the tribes have worked with Bonneville Power Administration, and we know the Bonneville Power Administration has distributed various funding for hatchery operations, and they've looked at and considered renovations dealing with fish ladders, but it's a concern that's been pretty much too late. And we have to seriously consider whether or not we can help them with the restoration of the river and restoration of the Chinook populations. If we do that, then our resident killer whales will have something to eat. There's a journey planned. We're going to go up the Columbia River and all the way up the Snake River. We're going to have a gathering here in Bellingham, May 3rd. We're going to head south. We'll go down to Eugene, Oregon, and we'll go to see the Chinook Nation. That one time they're federally recognized, and then they got their recognition pulled. Mm-hmm. But Lewis and Clark went right there and ate some of the salmon with them. They were fed by that's where they got settled for a while when they're resting from their long journey across the country. It was the Chinook people, and later on, the trading language became the Chinook jargon. Something like "Esha Stemish Ush Ishla." It had a Punkin Mikohui's Kalskudel. It's that type of language that was only 300 words in the whole language, but it was used in some of the initial trade relationships that developed all the way back when Astoria was a trading post, and up to Hudson Bay, and then into the treaty negotiation times in the 1850s. And the Chinook were a rich nation. They were rich, they were wealthy, highly respected. They were somebody, but they got shoved aside by non-Indian arrival and development, and they became almost extinct as a nation. But they fought their way back, and they were successful a while, and they're still trying to get recognition. And so we'd like to go there because they're right at the mouth of the Columbia River. And, you know, we're going to be stopping in Portland. We're going to go up to Sk'ali'Chehl Falls. We always go to the village. You know, we just love those people. They're so humble. Those children there are so helpful. They've been raised traditionally. You know, they know how to set the table and clean the table. They know how to help during the time of prayer and also the time of feeding the guests. You know, and they've been raised in a very cultural way, and their elders are very humble people. And whenever we do a totem pole journey along the Columbia River, we always love to stop there. And so we'll be going to Sk'ali'Chehl Falls. And of course, we're working with a great Yakima Nation. And we know their late chairman, Joe Gowdy, will be with us.
The former chairman.
The former chairman, yes. And we're going to go to Umatilla, you know, and Shoshone Bannock, Nez Perce, you know. So we're making our way upriver, and we're going to be stopping for ceremonies. We're calling for restoration of the river, restoration of the salmon stocks of the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and the removal of the dams. It seems like it's impossible, but the dams are outdated, you know, and it's taken a lot to supplement them and keep them operational. You know, and it's time the nation started moving on to alternative energy sources and to work with the Native nations as well as the surrounding non-Native community on developing plans and the capacity to both restore the river and the salmon populations. And so what we did is we took the whale that we had brought to Florida, and we're taking the seal figures that support it, and we produced 8-foot Chinook that's going to hold it. Those 8-foot long Chinook by 2 foot wide by 2 feet high. Those represent the great hog Chinook that used to come up the Columbia and up into the Snake River. And so we just wanted to have a little more culturally appropriate, but we're also adding a baby whale on the snout of the large whale figure, because that's going to reflect Tahlequah.
Tahlequah. Tahlequah, yeah. Tahlequah.
And you know, when she lost her baby, or they call it a calf, but you know, it's a baby. She pushed that baby around for 17 days for 1,000 miles. You know, and that's serious grief. You know, she's had another offspring since then, but that's a lot of grief. You know, and they're a society. You know, we can bring the whale back from Florida. You know, her mom is the head of the pod now. You know, and so this little whale that we just carved and that we're going to be adding, it's also got injury on the side, which is will be painted red to indicate that it's been hit by a prop. Yeah, you know, there's been a lot of effort. There was a lot of effort by the late Senator Warren G. Magnuson to make sure that the whale populations were protected. And he wanted to make sure that the Puget Sound and the Georgia Straits and the Straits of Juan de Fuca and the San Juan Islands were all protected from the possibility of a major oil spill from the super tankers that were coming through. That's why he wanted double-hulled tankers only. You know, and I remember one of the last things that I heard from him was, "Don't forget about my whales." You know, and that was dear to his heart. And we know the late Billy Frank and others have worked hard. You know, they're good forerunners of leadership that have basically taught us that if you commit to it and you keep moving forward, eventually you'll succeed. But you got to believe. And so we're hoping that by working with the tribes up along the Columbia River and the Snake River, that we're reinforcing their belief, and we're reinforcing their prayers. And we're really proud that they're receiving us with open arms and welcoming us to stop and do ceremony with them.
Thank you, Sk'ali'Chehl. And thank all of our viewers here and around the world, our guest Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut. They will be doing the Snake River Totem Pole Journey right beginning at May 3rd here in Bellingham, Washington at the Unitarian Fellowship. Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut, it's always good to see you, and we look forward to visiting with you as you travel through the territory. And people can find us at our shared responsibility, a totem pole journey, for any updates that are coming up really soon. Thank you, Aishka.
Thank you.
That is Jewel James. For those who have not met him, you're in luck, because we're going to be doing our Easter broadcast. He'll be joining us to talk much more about what he does as Master Carver, as well as share some personal information about who the Quahomichan are to him. So again, if you have not heard or spoke to Jewel James, you're in for a treat. I could listen to him for hours. I didn't want to let him get off our recording last night, but I'm sure he was tired of talking. But I could just sit and listen to him. Deb knows. Deb was on with us, so she definitely knows. Again, if you're just joining us, TokiTV, April 10th, thank you so much for being here with us. We have Alejandro there in Miami. We have Howard Garrett, Susan Berta, Deb Cruz. Lawrence Curtis will be joining us here in just a little bit. Allie Kinsley is going to try to jump on if she can swing it. She's got a lot going on today. But we promised that we would be here every week. And a lot of people are asking in the comments, why is there no update? What's going on? Why are people not making things happen? It's been 50 years. We should have more information now. And I know we all want more information. But one thing that I think is important to note is Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut is not giving up. And so neither are we. And we're going to be here every single week. And we're going to gather here every single week to continue to pray for her. I encourage everyone to pray for her every day. I know we do, most of us do. But this is an opportunity for us to do this together as a group. Prayer is powerful. There's a lot going on. And again, we want to send her positive energy and love. So that is why we are continuing to be here, whether or not there's an update. We're in a good place. I mean, what we know is we're in a good place. It's moving forward. And so the details are being worked out. And as soon as they're available, they will be shared with everyone. So thank you. I know it's frustrating to not know things, but we're going to continue to be here for her. We're going to continue to hold her up every single week together as a team. So thank you for joining us in doing so. We have some more education. Talk about comments from last week. Howie, Professor Howard, many people are calling you Professor Howard, Professor Garrett. People want to hear more. So thank you for being here and being willing to do that for all of us. So let's turn this on over to Howard.
Hi, Deb. Thank you, Annette. Very much appreciate that. So today I would like to talk about empathy in orcas. And it's to understand Toki, Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut, a little better, is to understand her family, her species, Orcinus orca, and cetaceans in general. But a lot of this applies to her. Okay. We have the short video. That's good. I would like to start out with a story. And this is actually my brother Ken Balcom's story, and it goes back to about 1977. Shortly after he began the systematic demographic survey of the southern residents to basically document every individual and be able to see the demographic trends over the years. But this was in the very early days. And this story still is unexplained, but it's been told often. Ken actually had it published in Pacific Search magazine when it existed back in the 70s. And more recently, it was in Carl Safina's book, Beyond Words, a beautiful book. So I called Ken to get a little bit of color on it, and sure enough, he gave me some context. And What it was in those days, it was the usual travel trend to be with the whales because the whales came down into Puget Sound pretty much every day back in those days in the summer months. And so they would pick them up somewhere off Bainbridge Island or Seattle and come north with them. And then they would go up to San Juan Island and then around the San Juan Islands and down Rosario and kind of repeat that circuit. And then the salmon ran out in Puget Sound, and so they didn't do that anymore by the mid 1980s. So he was coming out of Admiralty Inlet. For anyone who knows the waters around here, that's up into the Strait of Juan de Fuca and Haro Strait. And he was about 15 miles from San Juan Island when a fog bank came in, and it was just pea soup. It was just surrounded him. He had no visibility at all. And he had to go about 15 miles up to San Juan Island, up to the port to dock his boat. And he knew the compass setting, but there are strong currents in there, and it can blow you sideways. And there were other islands around and other, obstructions that he could bump into, and you don't want to do that in a boat in the fog. And suddenly J-Pod came around and surrounded his boat right in front of him, 4 feet off his bow, and wouldn't let him go without going their way. They basically took him by the hand and led him 15 miles up into open waters next to San Juan Island where it cleared up. And he still kind of shakes his head and doesn't know how to explain that. He looks for an alternative theory like, oh, they were just going that way. But, 4 feet off his bow, then, you just have to say, how did they know? How did they know that he was in trouble and needed help and that they could guide him? So that happened, and it's duly recorded, not explained. So I want to just give a mention here. We have some other stories and videos coming up, but I want to give just a mention here of brains, orca brains in particular. A lot of people get EEGs, electroencephalograms, to measure brainwaves, measure the electrical activity of the brain to show, I don't know what, all sorts of different, information about how our brains are functioning at any time. But our brains are very highly electrified. There's a constant electric circuitry going on in the synapses, between the axons. It's got to relay information and somehow form images and thoughts and actions and run your arms and legs, and all of that happens up there in the brain. And so that's why it's a very energy intensive place, and requires a lot of oxygen, and they wouldn't have those brains if they didn't need them. But way back in 1974, in a book called Mind in the Water, it's an anthology of a whole lot of different art and science. There's a paper by Morgaine and Jacobs that talks about the paralimbic lobe. This is a part of the cetacean brain, especially the orca brain, that we don't have. That is this, very large major lobe. And you have to consider also that orca brains are about 5 times the size of ours. Ours are about 3.5 pounds. Orca brains are 16 to 20 pounds. So, there's a whole lot more brain. And then there's this huge lobe that can be described in a lot of minute detail. But as far as what it functions at, what it does, is very hard to say. It somehow coordinates emotions, empathy, communication. It unifies the senses. so that more holistic images and thoughts, we don't know because we don't have it. We can't, we don't have that experience. We can't describe really what it is. So it's all really very vague, but it's there. And this behavior sort of indicates maybe what it's doing, this kind of enhanced empathy that we see. So I'd like to just play, if those videos are ready, a couple of examples. And the first one is from Ralph Monroe, who at the time, he was the Secretary of State of Washington, a very reliable, very conservative Republican source. But a whale, well, he was a champion of orcas. I mean, he is the one who basically single-handedly, marshaled all the resources and got the media, got the governor's office, and got the courts involved and ended the captures in 1976. And he's been very dedicated to orcas ever since. Just spoke to him a couple of days ago. And so a whale was named after him. A big guy named J6 was named Ralph. And he died. He died in 1977, I believe it was. No, I'm sorry, 1997. And so Ralph wanted to hold a service for him. So he went up to San Juan Island and he, announced it to some media and had some people there. And Susan was there, and she'll fill in after this short video clip where Ralph describes what happened. Can we play that video?
If you've never had an animal look you in the eye like J6 looked at me, it's the experience of a lifetime. And I don't know who intervened in that meeting, if it was the animal or me or God, but there was a connection. And I was heartbroken when J6 died. And but the remarkable sensitivity, I'm not a dreamer or out there in La La Land, but I'll tell you, this species has a remarkable connection to us in weird and mysterious ways, and I've seen it happen myself. One example that we laugh and talk about and enjoy remembering was during the years that so many whales were dying, and we weren't sure what was killing them. And why they were dying, and no one was really paying any attention, and the pods were diminishing. And this was after kind of the capture era, but there was just a lot of whales being lost. And so we wanted to call some public attention to this. And by this time I was Secretary of State, and I told my staff, we're going to go to San Juan Island. We're going to have a funeral for the whales. And they thought I was crazy nuts, but I said, no, I think it's worth it. Let's go talk about how many are dying. And I remember that day when we got to San Juan Island, and I stopped to see Ken Balcom and some others, and they said, Ralph, there haven't been any whales around here for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. And he said that they just haven't been here. And there's none in the area that we know of. And so you could have your little press conference down there and so forth, but I don't think you're going to have a chance for the press to get any pictures of whales, which we kind of hoped for, but we said, well, okay, that's a remote chance and it probably won't happen. And it was interesting, about an hour before the event, Balcom called me, Ken called me, and he said, Ralph, we've just seen the whales coming across on the southern end of San Juan. And he said, looks like they're heading north towards you. And I thought he was kidding me. I kind of laughed and said, yeah, right, Ken, that's not going to happen. And it was very interesting. We were there at Lime Kiln, and I had my back to the kind of facing to the crowd, and the cameras were all focused on me. And suddenly I looked up and I was speaking just briefly there to open the press conference, and suddenly I saw all the cameras just swing away from me and right out to the bay, and there they were, and it was J-Pod, and they were leaping and jumping, and it was because we were there, and I believe that in my heart, and I think that they knew that people were standing up for them. And that's something that I know will be hard for a lot of people to comprehend, but there are so many other examples. Is it?
So I was there that day also, and I remember coming up the island and seeing the whales approaching Limekiln just as we were. And I know, as Ralph has often said, the whales didn't show up at 1:05 or 12:55. They showed up at exactly 1 o'clock when the press conference started. And what he doesn't share here is that it was J-Pod, and it was like the minute that Ralph started describing the day that he met J6, Ralph, that was eventually named Ralph, and made that connection. The minute he started talking about that, it was one whale that started breaching, a female, and she breached 6 times while he was talking. And that whale was J8, who was J6's sister, who had to have been with them when they met Ralph, the person Ralph. And to me, that sort of thing, and there are so many similar stories, but for J-Pod to show up exactly at the time of this event in honor of J6, and for his J6's sister to breach exactly 6 times, it just, however they communicate or understand what's going on in our minds and our world, there is a connection, and their brains are bigger than ours, so we can't figure that out. But and another just quick story, when around the same time, one of the first times I went to see Toki, and I had a photograph, just a small 4x6 photo of a new calf that had been born. And I knew she couldn't see it, and I was trying to be quiet because the trainers were there, but I was just kind of leaning over the edge of the tank with this photograph and telling her, here's the newest member of your family. And she came up and looked with one eye and then another eye, and she just hung there, and I felt like she was understanding what I was saying and showing her. And and of course I was saying, I was back in 97 or 98, I was saying, we aren't going to give up, we're still trying to get you home. But she looked at that photo with her eyes like she understood what I was showing her. And, that's not scientific, but there's a way that and I truly feel she can feel all of our thoughts and prayers and the power of the number of people working to get her home. And that's what's keeping her going.
Thank you, Susan. And now I want to play another story for you, and this is from Alexandra Morton. And this was recorded in, let's see, Orca month of 2021, so less than a year ago. That's in June. And Alexandra Morton, if you're not familiar with her, I strongly recommend her book, Listening to the Orcas. And she tells this story in that book, but she also told it at that event. And well, let's just play it. Have you got Alex's, Annette?
I just want to tell you, there's a few things that have happened to me with the orca that are just so phenomenal that I no longer really know where the boundaries are with them, what they can perceive. This also is very important, is to get over this, that we know what consciousness is. Do we really know what is possible and what is not possible? But one of the things that happened, and those of you who have read my book will already have heard these stories, but when I came back, how do you start training an orca? How do you get them going on doing the you want them to do. And she said, okay, but we've kind of run out of ideas. They can wave and they can leap and they can spy hop. And I said, thinking in my mind what I'd seen in British Columbia, I said, well, in British Columbia, sometimes when they surface, they will roll and slap their dorsal fins really hard on the surface. And I've never seen Orky and Corky do that in all the hundreds of hours I'd been observing them. And so the trainer goes, oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that someday. She picks up her buckets and she's heading down the ramp. Corky surfaces and slaps her dorsal fin on the surface. And then she does it again. And then she does it again. And I race down, catch the trainer, and is like, you have got to see this. And she runs back up with me. By now, Corky has generated a huge wave in the tank. And she's riding up to the top of that wave and she's slapping her dorsal fin at the top of the wave. And the trainer looks at me and she goes, yeah, that's orca for you. I mean, what do you do with that information? When whales do something like that. And I think it's really important when we have these kinds of experience that maybe you don't try to define it, announce to the world they're telepathic or any of the rest of it. But I also think it's important that you don't forget these things, because we have a human brain with human senses. And so, of course, we're biased to be humans. There's a whole realm of possibility out there of what these other animals that share the planet with us are sensing and how they can communicate. And, when you look at that large brain in an animal that's holding its breath, brains need oxygen. They're very, they really need lots of oxygen. They need it constantly. And yet these animals are holding their breath all the time, and they have developed a huge brain. If they didn't need it, they wouldn't have it. It was very dangerous to believe that these dolphins had any kind of feelings or emotions or childhood. You weren't supposed to call them babies. They were calves. And I also worked for John Lilly as a volunteer, which he was on the other end of the spectrum. And of course, everybody was oceanariums were very afraid of him because they didn't want to be seen as holding a sentient being in a tank. So it was difficult to navigate this in the beginning, but it remains difficult because you have to always be objective. And so I think when you're working with these animals, you just have to be ready to absorb everything and don't try to explain it. There was this other time when I was panicking because I was in the fog and there was this cruise ship coming for me and I could hear it on the hydrophone, but I didn't know where it was. And I, ready for the fog to just split open with the bow of this huge thing. And the A5s appeared around me. And for some reason, I instantly felt safe and decided I would stay with them. And they stayed so close to my boat that I had to keep clicking into neutral because I was afraid I was going to hit them.
So that's remarkably like Ken's story of going into a fog bank, being lost, becoming a bit afraid, very concerned, and being surrounded by whales who saved the day, who actually rescued both Ken and Alexandra when they were lost in the fog. So that all makes me wonder, how hard will it be to teach Toki how to come home, how to swim into the sling? Will she understand what's going on? I think so. Will she cooperate? I believe so. I want to play one more short video, and this is actually of Toki. And it was made in 1995. And it was a Como special called Spirit in the Waters, narrated by Kathy Gertson, the departed but renowned anchor on Seattle television. And the producers of that when they went to Miami, they didn't say that the show was going to be about the whale, about Lolita. They said it was about the life of a trainer. So this trainer is thinking that it's basically about her, but to her credit, she's talking about Toki, but she's candid. She's being very open about her feelings and her relationship with Toki. So let's go ahead and play Marcia Henton.
She's one of the longest living orcas in an oceanarium anywhere in the world. She's been here since 1970, so she's had many trainers over the years and used different techniques with training. My first contact with her was in 1988. It's like having a best friend that you get to see every day and do neat stuff with every day, and it's not a person, it's an orca.
Lolita and her trainer, Marcia Henton, look forward to their quiet times together between performances.
The bottomless pit. That's the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit.
By nature, killer or orca whales are very social animals. But Lolita has been without a companion for the past 15 years. Except for the dolphins in her tank, Marcia and the other trainers here are her only family.
She loves it when the trainers enter the water with her. She likes to pull us around and we swim with her and dive down and play those games. She enjoys that a lot. Her favorite toy in the world is an old trainer wetsuit. I'm not really sure why, but the reason I think she enjoys it is it's very interactive. She likes to spray in the hose. She likes a lot of close contact. It's like a massage. She likes it in her mouth and on her teeth and on her back. It's a very unique experience, and I'm charged with the responsibility that this animal's care is in my hands. Here, let me look in that blowhole and see what's going on in there, huh? Good girl. What, too? Very nice. But she receives vitamins every day. We do a full body exam every day. We take blood from her. She urinates into a bottle on command. We do pap smears, fecal cultures, blowhole exhale slides. You name it, we get a sample of it. And she's very good with that training. We've been able to monitor every aspect of her physiology. There's nothing about her chemistry that we don't know.
But what we are just beginning to know and understand is the incredible intelligence of these animals. And Lolita has proven to be at the head of her class.
I've been able to go back into her journals 20 years and look up old signals, and those signals are what the trainers use to communicate with the animals. And I know for a fact I haven't used a certain signal for the time I've been here, 8 years. So I can walk up here and give her a signal she hasn't seen in at least 8 years, and she remembers it. When she comes over to me or when we're interacting together, she looks right into my eyes. It almost feels like my soul is open to her.
Yeah, it feels like her soul is open to her. We get that from many people who look into the eyes of an orca. And Marcia also brought out that she has a really good memory. She can remember a signal for a circus trick that she hasn't even seen that signal in at least 8 years, and she remembers it right away. So that is another indication that she may easily remember the most important things in the life of an orca, her family and her surroundings, her natural habitat, and how to catch fish, and all the essentials that she may need is probably still right there. So there are just these many, many indications, and Alex warns us not to try to describe exactly. Is it telepathy? Is it enhanced empathy? Is it some kind of brainwave ultrasonic connection. We don't have the words, we don't have the concepts, we don't really know how to describe it. But what it tells us is that there's a lot going on in her head all the time. I mean, she is in a featureless, completely bland, boring environment and has been for over 50 years. And when we look at her, we think that's got to be absolutely horrible. And it really is. For a lot of orcas, they don't make it. They do go nuts. They become either catatonic or self-destructive, or they lose their appetite, and a lot of them died, from that experience of being in that concrete. But she somehow keeps her mental activity, her physical activity, very alive. And so I wonder, what does she know? What does she know about the people around her? What does she know about the people even far from her who are thinking of her, who have her being, her image, her thoughts of her, prayers for her in their minds? Why wouldn't she be aware of that, given that we don't know the limits of what she may be aware of? But somehow she entertains herself. She keeps the activity going. When crowds come in, you wonder if she scans and is sort of, understanding what's going on in the heads of the people around her, besides the trainers and anyone who builds a relationship with her. And I think she has been very fortunate, at least to our limited, very limited knowledge. She started out, and you can see with Marcia Henton, that trainers can become very attached to her. They want to build this relationship, and they completely enjoy and look forward to their times with her. So how ready is she? And how easy will it be for her to cooperate, participate, and be part of the team that brings her home, essentially? I don't think she'll need a whole lot of training. I think she'll just catch on very quick and see, yeah, they mean well, they're good people, and maybe they're bringing me home. So that's really all I have to contribute. I'm not going to get, hyper scientific or academic or try to give you a bunch of long words, because I don't know what's going on myself. But that basically is our Orca empathy course for today.
Thank you, Professor Howard. I'm just going to call you that from now on, because that's just cool. Thank you, though, for sharing that. The video is, it's beautiful and it's heart-wrenching, like someone else said in the chat. And wow, talk about feeling her. And again, just a reminder that she feels us as well. Alejandro, I want to check in with you. I watched your live today, and I was standing with someone. I was actually at church, and I was sharing it with them because I just love this guy. You have to hear him. I just love this guy. So, Alejandro, what were you out there doing today at this aquarium? Oh, hold on one second. There you go. There you go.
First of all, I agree with Howard, who he said, like Lolita will cooperate. As soon as she knows she will go home, she will jump in a plane. She will cooperate because she's very smart. Yeah, just to let everybody know, today I was in front of the stadium of Lolita, praying a little bit. I am not Samuel, I am not, Tom, Reverend Tom, but I do my best, with being there. Just I encourage everyone to keep supporting Lolita, keep praying for her, keep sending emails, letters, doing this with respect, just trying to get, the heart of Mr. Albor, just to let Lolita go back home. I think is the right thing to do. I feel in my heart that we will achieve this goal. She will make it. So please keep praying for her, keep sending positive energy. You see, I'm not protesting because I think at this moment, Lolita, what she needs is pray. Pray, pray, pray for her, not just boycott a business. You know what I mean? That's why I've stopped doing this, and I encourage everyone to do the same. Just keep praying for Lolita, for TokiTV Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut, because she can feel our energy. I think she knows, I feel she knows we'll go back home.
I'm on mute. I caught myself. Thank you. It's a big shift, I think, you know, from protesting, and you've been out there, oh my gosh, 6 years, 8 years?
So, almost 8 years, yeah. Almost.
And I mean,
Yeah,
just, you know, and so she knows you're out there, and I think she feels, because you're there praying, and I'm making this up, but I really believe this. You're there praying, not protesting. That's got to be so comforting. Like, she has to know we've gotten somewhere, you know? And I just want to keep reminding people, like, this, I know we want the end game. We want to see her. Everyone wants to see the video of her being put back in the water, but we can still celebrate this. This is still huge. Where we are today is huge, and it has not been there. And so just you being there and continuing to be there in a different role, you know, putting the different energy out there for her has got to be so comforting for her.
and you know, Annette, I am representing, when I am there, I'm representing all the people who really love her and would like to sit with me in front of the stadium or with Lolita close, you know? That's what I'm saying. That's why I sometimes I feel so tired because, you know, I work from Monday to Saturday. I say, I had to go. I had to go. We are close. We are close. I had to go. And Lolita needs me there. And I know the people, I think we stay in touch with people every Sunday. You know, they follow my activism. They follow the Facebook Live. And like I said, I encourage everyone to keep praying, keep donating, and don't lose hope, because Lolita never gave up. I never gave up, and we will not give up until she finally goes back home.
Thank you so much, Alejandro.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And for being here. I know you, I mean, poor Alejandro, I'm texting him like, are you getting on? And he's just trying to get back from Miami. So he's doing a lot all the time, as are all of you. So thank you, everyone, for your prayers and everything that you're doing, your letters. We're going to see a video at the end of the broadcast today made by Christina Mully. Beautiful video. It highlights the art project and just some. I mean, I don't even know, Christina, I know you're watching. Maybe you can put on there how many in the chat, how many letters you've received so far, because I know there's been so many. Everyone's doing something unique, and thank you. I want to see, is Susan available, Howard, to come back on and tell us a little bit about what's coming up for Orca Network? I want to share that. Cool stuff happening.
I'm
There's
back.
you.
Sorry about that. Multitasking. Yes, we have Welcome the Whales coming up April 23rd and 24th. We have a great fun parade of species, so you can come dressed up as your favorite critter or whale. We also have some costumes available that will be at the Langley Whale Center for checkout. So if you don't feel creative or don't happen to have a whale costume in your closet, come and check one out from us. And after the parade, we have a nice blessing and ceremony down by the water. And then we are really excited to have Dr. Sue Moore, who is a gray whale researcher who specializes in climate change. And she will be speaking about gray whales as the sentinel of climate change. And with the ongoing unusual mortality event we've been having, it's a really timely talk. She'll talk about changes in feeding for gray whales up north and why we're seeing so many deaths over the last years. And then the next day we'll have a gray whale watch and a beach cleanup that anyone can participate in anywhere. So go to our new website, orcanetwork.org, and click on events to learn more about all of those fun things. Hope to see you there.
Thanks, Susan. That's going to be fun. I'm really jealous that I don't live up there with you all because, gosh, everything you guys do, I'm like, I want to go. I want to go. So maybe our chapels will have us go up north at some point.
The whales are calling you.
They are. They definitely are. Thank you so much. Lawrence is not on, and I know he's going to be bummed that he didn't make it on prior to the end of the show. But Lawrence Curtis is in our conversations every week. Like I said, Allie was not able to join us, and Raynell was not able to join us as well. But I just want to thank them for everything they do. Again, I want to thank the Mayor Cava, Raquel Regalado, County Commissioner in Miami. Just everyone's doing something, and I'm just so grateful to be part of that. I do want to close with a prayer before we get to our wonderful video by Christina Molly. So I'm going to ask Reverend Tammy, who happens to be right here next to me, to go ahead and pray us out from this show. Thank you very much, everyone.
It's an honor to be with you all, knowing that we are in the presence of Spirit, knowing that the grand creator, the creator of all that is with us now. And that in this space, in this moment, in the presence of all of this goodness, we just give our hearts over to joy, give our hearts over to the blessing and the thanksgiving, knowing that as we know that every single being, every single person, every single life in this plane is sacred and blessed. We just call on all the goodness, all the light, all the joy right now, and offering thanksgiving for all that is occurring, for all that is working for the good, for a divine plan of light, of love, of goodness. We're just offering our hearts up in gratitude for the togetherness, for everything that's happening, for everything that's moving, knowing that all is well, all is perfect, and all is good. And so in this Thanksgiving, we release this time, this whole time together, knowing that it is perfect. And knowing it is, we say, Ashe, Amen. And so it is. Have a good week, everyone, stepping into a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. Namaste.
I will say I put her on the spot. She just walked in and I said, hey, can you come do a prayer real quick? So that was on the fly. So pretty good. Thank you very much for doing that. Just a quick reminder that next week is Easter. We will be here. We'll be here with you. Joel James will be talking more about we're talking about the education piece and the history. And so he's going to be sharing with us a little bit more about Cohamashin and his calling on the on doing the totem poles, be master carver. So you don't want to miss next week. Again, they're recorded. You can watch them over and over. So if you're busy hunting eggs during this time next week, they will be there for you to watch on the Orca Network Lolita Tokitai page, and also on YouTube. You can type in TokiTV. So I want to get this right before I introduce this video because, and I apologize, Christina, that we had not shown this before. She did this about a week ago. Christina Mully, who was working with, she was working with Peggy Oki a lot on the art campaign, but Christina did this video and it was inspired by Toki and all of the beautiful art and letters from around the globe. She made this video for Mr. Albor. So we're going to close today by watching this beautiful video. Thank you all for joining.
Wild orcas swim up to 100 miles a day. Orcas have very strong family bonds and social ties. In 1970, off the coast of Washington state, a large number of orcas were captured. The young orcas were brutally taken from their families. The only surviving orca from those captured has lived in a tiny tank at Miami Seaquarium, swimming in circles for almost 52 years. People from all around the world are reaching out to Mr. Eduardo Albor, the CEO of the Dolphin Company, being the new owner of the Miami Sea Aquarium. We are asking you to please set Toki free Please, Mr. Albor.
Please, Mr. Albor.
Please, Mr. Albor, set Toki free.
You have the capability to be Toki's savior. Be the one to go down in history as the company that brought a family back together again. Please, Mr. Albor, give back some of what has been taken from her.
Miami Nature School to Miami Sea Aquarium. Please free Tokita. Tokita! Let Tokita go!
Individuals all around the globe have been praying for you to be our hero, to right this wrong and let this lost sister return home. Please, Mr. Albor, set Toki free.
Bitte, lassen Sie Toki frei.
Laat Toki vrij.
Set Toki free! Set Toki free!
Please, Mr. Albor.
Set Toki free! Set Toki free!
Set Toki free. Set Toki free.
Toki vrij! Laat Toki vrij! Laat Toki vrij!
Set Toki free! Set Toki free!
Has been retired and now there is new owner, so what we're trying to do is bring her back to her home waters into sanctuary here in the Sound. And her mother, Ocean Sun, is actually still alive. She's 92 years old and we're trying to bring her back.
It's crazy how people do it.
I know, it is crazy. Thank you very
It's like
much.
imagine you being in that situation.
Exactly, that's exactly right. Let her feel the native cool water. Let her swim through the kelp beds. But most importantly, let her be with her family once more. You have the power to create a beautiful reunion, the power to do what no man has done before. Please, Mr. Albor, please.
Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut, Sk'ali'Chehl-tenaut. Go home to your family. We love you, Sk'ali'Chehl.